Obviously, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And as we announce Jake's 2-year contract, very happy to have that resolved. Excited for Jake and what this represents for him, and very appreciative of all the work that Rick Billette did along with Evan in support of the ownership. So I appreciate you guys all jumping on board to discuss the contract.
And obviously, this is an odd off season. We don't know when we're going to start, but after your negotiations with Brandon and Charlie last year, how important was it to you to get this done before you convene for camp, whenever that is?
Well, again, the timing is every negotiation really has its own timeline, and we went through an extended period with both Brandon and Charlie last year, and the landscape is just, there's a lot of unknowns associated with where we're going in the immediate future, and hopefully things, with all the positive news associated with vaccines and a hopeful climate that could potentially exist, that we get back on track. But we have some ground to cover, and I think that was part of the discussions this time around with Jake and Rick, and realizing that we had explored a longer term deal, and it's probably on me that it didn't come to fruition. We focused on a shorter term, given the landscape and a little bit of the uncertainty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We'll go next to Matt Porter. Mick Colagial, you'll be after Matt. Whenever you're ready, Matt, go ahead.
Sure. Hey, Don. Thanks for this. And just jumping off Steve's question, could you speak to some of the issues, not from a particular player standpoint, but just some of the issues that you guys are working through league-wide, the unknowns, the things that, maybe, they're hard to see, or things you're trying to figure out from a league landscape perspective?
Well, Matt, I mean, I'm not going to speak on a global perspective of league dynamic. We all understand what the challenges, with regards to the cap and where we were, this time last year, we'll call it, versus where we are now, and then the forecasting going forward. I think we all have to realize that things just don't work in a linear fashion, and you have to prepare accordingly. And some teams will have to make some judgment decisions, internal decisions, and the lineups and rosters will change accordingly. And that's really where the competitive balance of the league starts to shift at times, when teams, are in situations where they're somewhat squeezed, or the forecasting going forward. And we have several players that, will fall in line with that moving forward, and we have to prepare accordingly. And Jake was part of that process, but we're very appreciative of being able to have a really good young player who's been a very productive player for us, and really has a new platform going forward for him to take it as far as he wants.
Thanks, Matt. We'll go next to Mick. Go ahead, Mick.
Hey, Donnie. Will Jake reach his potential by focusing on his strengths, the speed end of his game, and learning how to make that the best weapon it can be? Or will it come more from him growing physically, or whatever it takes to get inside the big guys and get the ugly ones to add to his resume?
Well, Mick, I think it's a combination, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Jake has a chance to continue to expand his game. He has an innate ability to score goals. Some guys take 3 chances. Jake might only take 1, and he can finish. I think that's been proven over the course of his career so far. For the speed that Jake brings to the table, there's no reason why Jake couldn't kill penalties. There's no reason why Jake couldn't be a better even net front presence, where he scored a bunch of goals this year, but also missed opportunities. That's that inside presence, that ability to get inside the dots with consistency. Being a little more of a threat on a forecheck as an F1, with his speed, with his abilities that he has and the talents. I do believe, as you reference, continue to commit himself, on the physical side of things, to continue to mature as an overall adult and player in this league. He's got a heck of a lot of experience now. He's had a heck of a lot of success, and I think there's another level or two for Jake to get to, and we want to help him realize that and be part of the core of our group for years to come. He's been an impactful player in both the regular season and in the playoffs. but at times, as I referenced, the consistency, and all young players go through that. All players in general go through it, but I do believe that Jake has a chance, to become and have a more of a breakout impact in a two-way fashion of the game, as opposed to just that reliance of scoring a big goal. He's capable of scoring a big goal. He's capable of impacting the game in a lot of different ways.
Just a quick follow, if I may. There's some guys who make a career of pouncing upon a game by recognizing an opportunity, and then there are those who are sort of like game managers. They are the game. They construct it. Do you dangle it like a carrot before a player to tell him and show him another player and say, look, you can be this much better if you do these things? And do you think that's in Jake's future potentially?
Well, I certainly hope so. I know our coaches work with all of our players, in particular our younger players. I mean, guys are getting their feet wet. They're finding their way. He's had a lot of time with a high-level player like David Krejci. Developed some chemistry, bounced back and forth, with a little bit with Charlie Coyle. He's gone to the off wing at times just to see what those next levels of Jake can be, as opposed to just, as you referenced, having the innate ability to jump on a loose puck to score a big goal. You saw him take over games, a couple of years ago in particular in Toronto, and score an enormous goal for us coming down the off wing. And in a game in Carolina in the playoffs this year, he has those abilities to do that, and few players do. But again, can you impact it over the course of 60 minutes, where you leave the rink some nights where, I might not have finished, but I really, really impacted the game and I made a few more plays. He's a little more tilted towards the goal scoring side of things than he is the assist side of things. But with his speed and his ability to drive play in all three zones, I think Jake should recognize that he has at least one more, if not two more levels to get to.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mick.
Thanks, Mick. We'll go next to Fluto, and after Fluto, we'll go to Jimmy Murphy. Go ahead, Fluto.
Don, you mentioned term. Why was it important for you guys to go with 2 years as opposed to the longer term?
Well, again, as I referenced, Fluto, we had initial talks, as we did with Brandon and Charlie, and young players we think are part of our future and our core that will look to try and do longer term, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And in this case, I think a little bit of the unknown landscape had me pivot back to a shorter term to allow us flexibility now and then moving forward, and obviously allowing Jake for the next platform, his ability to take it to another level with a little more certainty as to where things may head financially for the league. And I think at this point in time, 2 years felt like the right number, and we're fortunate that Rick and Jake saw the common ground, and we're happy to get it done. He's really being recognized at the top of that peer group of his comparables, and we're happy to put him there.
And just to be clear, was that specific to the pandemic in terms of, okay, after March, that's where you pivoted, or was it before that too?
I just think, there's not any one specific thing. I just, the pandemic sort of, brought to light for me and our group that this was the direction that we felt was more prudent at this point in time, and moved there.
We'll go next to Jimmy Murphy, and then we'll go to Mike Loftus. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Don, how are you?
I'm well, Jimmy. How are you?
Good. Just kind of, I guess, a little more on what Fluto was talking about there. When, earlier, I think it must have been right after the pandemic hit, Rick was had a much larger number in term that he was publicly saying he could see his client getting. And it clearly changed. I'm wondering, not just with him, but with every agent you've been dealing with, negotiating during the pandemic, how receptive have they been to adapting to what's really become a day-by-day financial climate?
Well, Jimmy, I mean, it doesn't take much. You guys can speculate and print a number regardless of what an agent may say or a general manager may say. And sometimes it becomes a gravitational pull in that direction. You have to deal with what the real comparables are, go through the individuals that you're talking about, and the player, and the importance to your team. And I think this references Jake's importance to our team and where he is amongst his peer group. And we were happy to put him at the top of that grouping. And if he reaches the next level, and we have a little more certainty in the financial outlook of things, everybody predicted, 2 years ago where the cap may or may not be, but nobody could have predicted necessarily where we stand today. And, you have to react according to that. The discussions have been, obviously a little more pragmatic in terms of what players as individuals are dealing with, the teams are dealing with, and being cognizant of the financial landscape. And, like I said, we're happy where we're at. We put him at the top of his peer group, and I think Jake has an opportunity to go forward and really, depending on obviously where the league goes, to take it to a level or two beyond this, well beyond this.
Thank you, Jimmy. We have time for a couple more. We have one more question in queue, so final call for questions. Mike Loftus, go on ahead.
Hey, Don. To jump back into the consistency question, a lot of these negotiations are, management and agent and numbers driven, and you've used the term peer group. Do issues like, consistency and things like that? I mean, are they, were they part of a negotiation like this one?
More in a general sense, Mike. I don't think we were being very specific to, going through a slump here or there. It's for us, it's just the outlook of what Jake is capable of doing, and he's shown it. He's been consistently productive. So not to be contradicting myself in that regard, I just think there are stretches where if Jake finds the level that he's capable and affecting the game in a two-way component, you might not walk out of the game and think, well, Jake did score tonight. He's in a slump. And I don't think it's all about that. The puck doesn't go in at times, and all goal scorers go through that. And I think Jake has the ability to impact the game in a lot of different ways. And we all want to help him, the coaches included. Jake himself wants to recognize it and be that impactful player in the course of an entire 60 minutes, as well as on the score sheet. His numbers speak to the fact that he's had consistent production.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We'll take our final question this evening from Amalie Benjamin. Go ahead, Amalie.
Hey, Don, I just wanted to ask, with this deal done, is there any update or movement on Zdeno?
No, same status quo there, and waiting to reconnect with Matt and Zdeno as he, continues to evaluate what the landscape of the league looks like, and we'll see where it goes. We've had, constant communication, but, hopefully that we've got a target date here at some point in time in the near future, and we'll see what the league determines.